You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Scottish Football Show Extra. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We have got a midweek full Premiership card to run through, and to join me to do that, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the show Reegan Stevenson. Reegan, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for asking me on again, Scott. It's great to be on, and we've got a busy week of Scottish football to talk about. There's so many talking points to speak about this morning.
There is that. It's a lot to get through. Obviously, we've got a full weekend. We're getting closer to the World Cup. We've got a full week to look back on. We've got a full weekend to preview. So we're going to be busy. We've also got a couple of wee news points as well. But full card, as we say, a lot to touch on. We will start at Firth Park. Let's get into Celtic's victory against Motherwell. Reegan, I wouldn't go out and say it was a 2-1 victory. Celtic, Kyogo Maeda with a goal. Jot obviously got a goal disallowed for offside that we will touch on because I want to bring that up. Motherwell, obviously they're in a sticky run, they're struggling to get results, but they were decent actually. It was a decent display. But Celtic, I would say they made it hard for themselves. I think that's a good statement. I think it was a good result, but I don't think the performance is there. But again, it's games like that, and you'll look at the end of the season if Celtic, and I think they will win the league. If Celtic do go on to win the league, you'll look at nice last and go, we went at our best, but we got the 3 points, and that was all that matters.
Totally, Scott. I mean, I'd said last night Celtic were a bit slow in the build-up, and I totally get him. And the point for me was if you see that first goal, Scott, Matt O'Reilly, the tracking that he does to manage to get in there is sensational, and that's not spoke about enough. I think what Celtic have done, Scott, is they're missing their best player in Callum McGregor, and they're still managing to be 7 points ahead.
Yeah.
When Callum McGregor got injured, it was 2 points. It's now 7 points. I think the important thing, like you said, Frange, is just to get through to that World Cup break and get off to Australia 7 points clear, Scott. I thought Motherwell actually played quite well last night. They had a great chance at 1-0 through Louis Moult. And I thought they played pretty well. I think Stevie Hamill can be pretty pleased with how they went about it.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Stevie Hamill won't take from it is the fact that Van Veen, Mugabe, and I think it was McKinstry as well, they all went off in the first half with injuries. So that'll be when you're not getting results, when you're not getting results and you're losing key players. I mean, Van Veen, we've spoke about him a lot. He's a key player. That can just add problems. Now, I do agree. I think Stevie Hamill will look at that and go, that was a decent performance. But when you're not getting the results.
No.
And I know it's that thing of nobody's expecting Motherwell to beat Celtic or get anything from that game, but you're also expecting Motherwell to go out and go, right, okay, let's look at this game. Let's look at how we've played. Should we have taken more chances? Should we? Because it wasn't vintage Celtic. I think we can agree on that. And
No, it wasn't, no.
I thought you brought up an interesting point about Callum McGregor, because I thought since McGregor's been injured, I thought Moy last night in particular, I thought he's kicked on. See, just when he's gained a bit more fitness. And you said about O'Reilly as well. I think O'Reilly's maybe struggled in the past few weeks, but you see there he's still determined to get the goal. The thing with Celtic when they now is, as you say, they are winning. They are winning. They're scoring goals. They're not. I don't think you would say to any Celtic fan would say the past 6 or 7 weeks they've been breathtaking a lot of the time.
No.
But they're getting results, and that's why they're 7 points clear.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to look at that game on Saturday against Dundee United. I mean, that game was in 90 minutes at 2-2, and Celtic still had the self-belief that we could get one or two goals. And I think that's the thing that Andrew's instilled. He's instilled the fact that Celtic go up the park, and no matter if there's 1 minute left, they still think they can score and put the 3 points on to extend the lead at the top of the table.
Aye, I mean, it's that Celtic are just they're rolling now. They're just rolling on. They're winning games. The one point I want to touch on that we'll maybe bring up VAR maybe a couple of times in the show, but the one here with Jota's offside now, it's a tough one to say if it's offside or not because we don't really see a correct.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm going to lead to. I'm maybe going to go on a bit of a tangent in a wee second, but it's a really good goal. But is it that thing of with VAR and the angle of the camera is atrocious? That is crazy to me. How there's a TV camera there that is showing that angle, but the VAR can't pick up on that angle. That to me is ridiculous. That to me is stupid nonsense, and I don't understand it. But it's not if the linesman's put his flag up and he's obviously convinced it's offside. Now that is the decision the assistants came to.
Yeah.
The VAR official maybe isn't in a position to go, no, the linesman's got that totally wrong because we don't know. And if he's using that angle, should he not have another angle there? That why are they using an angle 60 yards away to determine if a line for an offside 60 yards up the park? That's the problem I've got with that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's absolutely crazy that people on the telly and people that are on the radio are actually telling us that the goal is onside. No, it's not.
I don't think it's necessary. I think it's one of those that are it's too tight to say if it's onside or offside. I don't think you can be clear on it.
But I think the thing that you spoke about there, Scott, they're only giving us one angle.
Mm-hmm.
Why they only showing us one angle?
Correct.
Now you spoke about going on a tangent there. I want to talk about a tackle on Stuffield, right? Now, why was that not a red card? Why was it not a red card?
Yeah,
I do not understand. There was an incident in the St Mirren St Johnstone game was the exact same incident of the Starfelt. And like the interesting fact for me was that Willie Collum actually signalled for VAR. He goes to VAR and VAR says no red card.
I mean, I don't know if it's a red card. I think there is a case for a red card, and it's one of those. But as you say, why is the referee wanting to go to VAR and VAR's refusing? I think that the referee should be making that call. The referee should be saying. The referee should be the one. If VAR's needs to interfere without the referee, I still think the referee should be able to go over every time he's needed to make the call. Because at the end of the day, what's the point in having the referee there in that decision?
Yes.
If VAR's just going to overrule him.
Scott, that is bang on because there's actually no point in the referee being there because every incident was just re-refereeing the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest disappointment for me is the fact that we're now taking the aspect away of the enjoyment of football because we're rewinding every single incident to the minuscule impact, and that's taken away for me for the big enjoyment. I don't know about you, but I think the referees will say it's teething problems, but there's still so many incidents where you think to yourself, well, if that incident is not a red card and stuff like that, you're kind of going, what are they actually? Why is he referring to VAR? And then he goes, "Oh, well, it's not a red card." It's the same one with Jackie Marcus one on the weekend. He spends 3 minutes over it to then go, "Oh, I don't think it's a." So what? VAR recommends that it goes, and then he spends 3 minutes over it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why everybody's getting a little bit annoyed at it because there's so much inconsistency. There's not enough. There needs to be a lot more clearer of where we're actually going with it. I think VR was brought in to help the game, not make it worse.
Yeah, and it's that. I spoke about it before about coming out and saying that it's going to take 3 months to get going. Well, if it's going to take that long, why not wait the 3 months and bring it in when it's going to be 100% correct? I think there's two things that I take from it. I think not giving the referee the final say is just I don't agree with it. I think you're making the referee basically pointless in that regard, but also you're giving, like as we bring up all the time, when you're giving people a case that now I totally refute, and disagree with anything that there's a big wider conspiracy going on in Scottish football and it's all the part of MI5 and all that. I don't believe that, but it's either incompetence or it's purpose. And that's the problem. Now, I'm a big believer that it's incompetence, and I think it's the same way any new technology. It's going to take time to settle in. It's going to take time to get used to it. But you also need to realise the fact that people are looking for this to go wrong. There's people out there that want VAR to be a failure and it all to be everybody's against us and all that. But you're certainly playing into that thing when you're not giving an offside because the camera is 60 yards away. I can understand why people would go, wait a minute, why is that? What's that all about?
And it's like you said, Scott. Surely we could afford one more possible camera in the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to cost as much.
I was under the impression though there was 5 cameras in every stadium that was meant to cover every angle of the park. That's what I was on. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what I was under the impression of. But again, it's one of these things, and I'm quite glad we're getting to a kind of World Cup break where we can get away from VAR, because I think once it's come in, I think the month of the World Cup break, and I don't know if like the top referees are going to go into the Championship and things like that in League One, but I think maybe two or three times a week, the referees that are implementing VAR, they have to have like an early review. Like if we were in a job, we would have an early review of how our performance is.
Yeah, I mean
that needs to be the case here, and we need to get it better for coming back when it was intended to come. It came in early because just why, but now use this break as a time to bring it back better once the break's over.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, you spoke about re-refereeing the game. I mean, we've spoke about so many times about incidents that we've seen. Go back to time capsule in the first game of VAR. That game was an absolute mess. Like Stephen McLean and Nick Walsh then get the biggest high-profile game the following week. How can that be possible? How can that work? Like, surely these guys need to take responsibility. If so many people within Scottish football are saying, right, these two guys have made a mistake in the Hearts Celtic game, they've not given 2 penalties for Hearts, they've not given 1 penalty for Celtic, and they should have sent someone off. If they've made 4 big decisions that went wrong, why are they then given the biggest game in Scottish football the following week at Ibrox?
Yeah, and I thought it's we could do this to death. But again, obviously, we'll Celtic, big win for them, takes them obviously 7 points clear again. Rangers, let's get into the next game. Rangers 1, Hearts 0. Anything other than 3 points for Rangers was a must.
Yep.
It was a very, very bang average first half. I thought very pedestrian. I just thought more of the same in the past few months or so. It's just been very boring. That's the best word for it, boring. Second half, I thought in particular Ryan Kent came on to a bit of a game. I thought the goal was excellent. Ryan Kent showed what Ryan Kent can do. And it was a weird game. I don't think we'll sit in 10 years' time and go, right, this is a game I want to watch back in full. It wasn't the best. And I was very disappointed with Hearts, because I thought Hearts must have thought they would have a real chance. The first half, they did have a bit of a go. They gave Rangers something to worry about. They were creating chances. But the second half, I don't understand what Robbie Nielsen's tactics were in that game, because it just seemed that he was quite happy just to either get away with a draw or try and avoid a big defeat. That to me, when you're playing against a Rangers team right now who are just not at the races, why would you not be trying to have a go? Because if Rangers team are struggling, and yeah, they've got the result, but it doesn't change anything. The results, it doesn't change anything. But were you surprised that Rangers get the result, and how big a 3 points is that for Rangers?
Well, I knew I was coming on here, Scott, so I watched a bit of the Rangers game last night, and I seen Josh, the Hearts striker, going through in the first 5 minutes, and I'm thinking this could end badly for Rangers, but it was a great goal.
It was
from Tillman, a good build up. The interesting thing for me is, Scott, this kind of duo Flynn Bronkhorst era with Rangers kind of reminds me like Neil Lennon of 2021. It's just like I think even I've got Rangers fans that went to the game last night. My sister went to the game last night, and I think I think they left after 55 minutes, and you're just kind of like, I don't think people are buying into what they're actually watching.
Aye, I mean, you brought up an interesting thing there about Neil Lennon, and I think there are similarities. I think the similarity for me is that with Neil Lennon, I knew where it was going. It was only going one way. It was just when, and it's the same here. Yeah, Rangers could limp. Rangers have three options here, and I've thought about this all morning before we come on. Rangers have three options here between now and kind of the Celtic game in January. They either just stick with it and just hope that the results improve, and when players come back to full fitness, that the squad's back to some sort of order.
Yep.
And they limp on and they just go for it. And the problem with that is that if they just limp on and just are stubborn not to make a change, you're just pushing the fans further and further away, because I think a lot of fans have already made their mind up. The second option they have is make a change now.
Yep.
And you've got those 4 weeks to bring in a new guy and implement those ideas and be full steam ahead after the World Cup to try and have a go, because it's not like it's 7 points. It's 7 points, yeah. It's very unlikely Rangers claw that back, but it's not miles away. It's not like Celtic are 15 points clear and the league's gone. It's only 7 points. Now, I know I'm saying there it's only 7 points. It's not like it's 3 games. Rangers play Celtic 3 times. They could beat them 3 times. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's very unlikely it happens, but it's not gone completely.
The big thing for me, Scott, when watching Giovanni Broncos as I do, I watch all Scottish football. The big thing for me is, right, the majority of Scottish football sit back and they let Rangers and Celtic play majority of football. Now, I've been to the last 2 Celtic Rangers games, and I just think Gio's tactics against the big teams, he's too negative, Scott. He's far, like, I'm sitting watching that Celtic game at Celtic Park, and I'm going, there's no way Celtic are getting beat here, because Celtic are on the attack non-stop and Rangers are just defending. I've an interesting point I want to ask you, Scott. Do you think Giovanni Broncos should get rid of Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent in January? Because I think it's about time they need to try and bring in some fresh blood. I know people would like to hear this as well, but Alfredo Morelos, don't forget, was called a bad apple by Gio when he was bad for his fitness in the Champions League qualifiers. So I'm trying to think. I don't think Alfredo Morelos would be a good influence around the dressing room when they're 7 points behind and the fact that his contract's nearly up. I just think Rangers should try and get a fresh start, bring some new players in January. But that goes down to the recruitment for Ross Wilson. Been absolutely atrocious, Scott.
Yeah, and that's something we'll touch on with the accounts as well. But yeah, your point in Kent and Morelos, yeah, from a business perspective, you have to try and recoup some money because you can't let them go for nothing. But also, Morelos an interesting one, because I don't understand just why you take Cholak off it. I don't think Cholak had a good game last night, and I think Cholak's a very weird player to assess, because if he's scoring goals, he's top class, and but when he's not getting service and it's very difficult to see what else he offers. But I think he's a big asset to this Rangers team. But when Morelos brings something different, I mean, I thought Morelos came on, he did improve Rangers a wee bit that last night, because I think when you're up against a Hearts defence that are very stuffy, you need a guy like Morelos to break down. But that's what I'm saying. That's my point. Why Morelos and Cholak not try? Maybe it might not work, but try it. Try it for a game. See, you're going to St Mirren on Saturday. Try the 2 up front. It might be you can change it after 60 minutes. You can if it's not working, but it might work. And I don't understand why. I don't understand up until yesterday what he was seeing in Ryan Kent to play him, because any other player in that Rangers team, maybe with the exception of Tavernier, if they're not playing well, they're out the team. Because he's nobody else that can do that. He's banking on Kent doing what he did last night and just turning up for 30, 40 minutes. Now, that's fine if he's doing it consistently. You know as well as I do, Reegan, that's probably the first time he's done that all season for that length of time. There was times last night he looked like the Ryan Kent of 2 years ago, where he had that confidence, he had that ability to just take everybody on. He didn't have any fear. Now has it been maybe coached out of him? And that's the thing that worries me. Is he going to go in the summer to a championship team? Is he going to go abroad and be unleashed and get a new lease of life and look like the guy that we know he can be? That's the thing that worries me.
I mean, the biggest problem if you're Rangers is the fact that this guy was so good under Michael Beale, and he's now went backwards under Giovanni Broncos with his coaches. But I mean, if you're a Rangers fan and you're watching it, you need to say the productivity that Kent is offering to this Rangers squad is an absolute disgrace. I mean, but it's like you said, Scott, he's not got anybody else to replace him.
And I think it's an interesting thing as well, and we spoke about this. Do you remember the clip? I think it was the first day's training when Gio came in, and and Kent tried something, and it stuck with me for a while. And I'm not completely taken away from Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent's been horrendous. His attitude's been horrendous. But Roy Mackay said something very interesting that day. He said, "Keep it simple. Tricks are for the circus." And I just wonder, when he said that, "Keep it simple," that's the whole thing with this Rangers team is just about just keep the ball, the chances will come. We just need to be patient, and that works when you're playing against a team that's wide open like Aberdeen and maybe even Hibs to a degree. Doesn't work when you're playing against the likes of Livingston and St Johnstone, because they're just going to put 10 men behind the ball and it's just going to be frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for Kent is that he's so up and down, Scott. I mean, he was fantastic last year, like you said, when the Rangers got done well in Europe. But this year he's not doing well, and I think it's important that, like you said, he gets that confidence back. And he's got a big game on Saturday against Mirren, and he'll just be hoping that he can do what he did last night and start doing things on a more regular basis. Because if you look at like Jota, Abada, even Haksabanovic, I mean Haksabanovic is often not playing, but his productivity when he comes on the park, he scores goals.
That's the thing, yeah.
He sets up goals. I mean, if Ryan Kent goes off, you've got Scott Wright, or you've got try to think of someone else. But
Matondo came in last night. I just think Matondo, that the game completely passed him by. But I thought Wright came on and made a bit of a positive impact. I'm still not convinced that Scott Wright's the man that the solution to that right wing problem. But
no,
you need, and that I was listening when I was on my way home for work last night. I listened to Radio Clyde, and Cammy Bell made an interesting point, and it stuck with me all night. You look at Rangers bench, and I know injuries are there, and they're ripped through that team, but that bench is just, look at Celtic's bench and look at Rangers' bench, Scott, and it's night and day.
Scott, I don't watch Rangers as much as you, but I'm just thinking that it seems to me like this Rangers team's been together for like 10 seasons or something. It just seems like
it's been, and it's that thing as well when you brought up that Neil Lennon thing, and I think that's interesting. But that the season Rangers stopped 10 in a row and won the league, you could see that Celtic team had reached the end of the cycle. You could see it after a few weeks that Celtic team they couldn't go on any longer.
No.
And that's what Ange, the genius I think of Ange in this first 18 months, he's only kept McGregor and Greg Taylor in prominent positions. I know he's got the likes of Turnbull there, but Turnbull was a big player in that first season. And now he's not a bit part player, but he's not. I mean, you look at Celtic's midfield, when it's fully fit, it's McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly.
Yes.
But you've got Turnbull to come on. You can bring on Aaron Moy. The front three, you've got Jota, Giacomakis, Kyogo, Haksabanovic, James Forrest, for example. James Forrest is maybe third choice in that right wing position.
Yes.
He can still come on and score a hat trick. Rangers don't have that. And Rangers were sorry to keep you on, but Rangers were so far. And Rangers weren't so far ahead, but Rangers were in the position where they had just won the league. They had the chance to move, to kick on and build forward. Rangers should not have. Rangers have stood still. Rangers have absolutely stood still, and that squad needs a complete overhaul, and it should have happened in the summer.
Do you know why I think they've stood still, Scott? Because the whole mission for the Rangers board, for the Rangers fans, was this whole mission: stop 10 in a row and nothing else matters. That was all. That was all it matters to Ross Wilson, to Douglas Park, to John Bennett. These guys would be crucified if Celtic won 10 in a row, Scott. So see anything other than that, to me it just looks like they do not care. And to me that's a disgrace, because Rangers fans that have forked out so much money on memorabilia, on everything, on Champions League packages for nearly 300 quid, and they're going there to see Leon King in the back. No, it's no disrespect to Leon King, but they should have someone there to show him the way. I mean, like, this guy's only turned 18 years old and he's thrown into Rangers first team, and he's thrown into every game because they've got no options. Now I know they signed John Sewer and Ben Davis, but this is my. I don't think that Gio signed the majority of those players. That's why I don't think you can blame him, because if you look at it, right, I don't think Gio signed Ben Davis. I don't believe that Gio signed John Sewer. I believe John Sewer was a Rangers board signing, because he was brought in during January when Gio was brought in, and then the month before when Stephen Gerrard left to go to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
You've got Matondo that he never plays.
Wilson came out and said we've been chasing him for 3 years. Now Gio hasn't been there 3 years, so
yeah. And the biggest problem for me is that I don't know if Gio has full faith in this board. I mean, probably one of the biggest things why Gerrard left was the backing from the board. I mean, Gerrard was doing well, but he knew there wasn't money there to go and spend. I mean, Rangers are coming out saying that they spent money on the training ground, but see the biggest development, Scott, the biggest development is to be made on the football squad. I mean, you look at it, Celtic, Ange Postecoglou said at his press conference the other day, we are not planning for the January window, we are already planning for the summer.
Yeah.
This is what Ange is doing. And like, it's no surprise that Celtic have already got two players lined up from Japan already. This is what they're doing. They already know what they're doing. I don't think Rangers have a plan, and that's the biggest worry.
I think Rangers have a... Well, we're as well just getting into the account thing now. We got a question from a viewer, a good friend of the show. Can you explain what Rangers account means and how you feel about them? Now, Rangers accounts are tough to break down, and I should say as well, these results were posted till the 30th of June. So Calvin Bassey money, Joe Aribo money, the Champions League money is not part of what we're going to talk about here for a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Douglas Park put in his statement, I'm delighted to be reporting a club record turnover of 86.8 million for the year to the 30th of June 2022. From this revenue, we returned an operating profit of 5.9 million, which represents an improvement of 27.6 million on last year's operating loss. This demonstrates the success and progress achieved over the last 12 months. A couple of things on that. A lot of that will be Europa League money. So that's massive. That shows you how massive that was for the club, not just on the field, but off the field.
Yep.
Secondly, Rangers were in a loss. Rangers have not made a profit, I think, since 2012. Well, they certainly haven't since 2012. This is a big improvement in terms of finances, because the club are now in a position where I wouldn't say they're rolling in it. I would not go that far, but I certainly think the word stability, I think there's a lot more, and that's the other couple of things as well. We'll just go through the accounts briefly. The payment to Sports Direct, that's that done. I don't think there's anything else to come of that. I think it's been settled in a court case, and that payment was the end of it. It's a lot. I think it's 8 million or something. It's a big payment, but it's also that problem solved. The one thing I want to touch on, and this is something that Dougie Park said in his statement that I think is relevant to what we were talking about there in terms of recruitment. This is a quote from Douglas Park, the Rangers chairman. Our entire football operation, led by Ross Wilson, now operates in a world-class environment at the Rangers Training Centre. The board is committed to further improvements to ensure we retain a facility among the very best in the UK. Off the field and allied to performance on the pitch, we have continued to make enormous strides. That will go up, and I'm going to swear here, that will go up the Rangers fans' arse sideways. Because here's why that will. Yes, the player trading model has worked. You have Calvin Bassey and Nathan Patterson sold for big money, but you also have a lot of dead. Who's the next big asset you can sell right now? Ryan Kent's valued at £15 million, I think, in transfer market. You might not get that. You maybe wouldn't have got that a year ago. You are certainly not getting it now, and you're certainly not getting 10 million for Alfredo Morelos.
Scott, the biggest
problem.
Scott, the biggest thing is you probably need to sell these players when they're at peak value. I mean, probably the best time to sell Kent, from a selfish point of view, was when Rangers got to the European final.
The best time to sell your Ryan Kent was last summer.
Yes, because I know Rangers fans will want to hear it. But same with Alfredo Morelos, I mean, well, this guy will not have value anymore because these clubs, like what I've seen from Morelos when he was scoring goals against Porto and Benfica and clubs like that, but he's not doing it in the SPL now. So it's a difficult one because it's like I said with Celtic earlier. I believe Celtic will sell in January, Scott, for the specific reason that Juranovic, right? He's going to a World Cup.
Yeah.
So they're going to go, right, peak value for Juranovic, 15 million. If I can reinvest that in the squad and get a brand new right back, and I've got Tony Ralston there as a deputy, we'll do that. And I think that'll be the biggest disappointment for Douglas Park. And like you said, for Douglas Park to come out and say that to Rangers fans is interesting because they'll be thinking, well, we've still got Stephen Davis, who's 37.
Yeah.
We've still got Alan McGregor, who's 40. And the biggest problem as well is, Scott, I don't see where, like you said, the next big sellable asset is. I don't see it.
There's two ways to look at that, and this is we'll move into the other games because we could spend all day. I think we've spent a lot more in the past few weeks than I think we've wanted to in terms of Rangers recruitment. But there's two things that Rangers could do, and Rangers probably should do. They either look at the assets they can sell. Now I'm not saying Rangers aren't skint. Rangers they're not rolling in it, but they're certainly not skint. The thing that Celtic have done, as you said there about Juranovic, and Celtic have spent a lot of money in the past 18 months to build that squad. But that Celtic board, Reegan, you know this, that Celtic board they're looking at, yeah, we've maybe spent 25, 30 million, but if we build this squad right, we're selling that for 60, 70, 80. Right? That's their plan.
Yeah.
The second thing of that is what probably Douglas Park's sitting going, right, that's a lot of money to put up. Yeah, but it's certainly better than giving a new contract to Alan McGregor and Stephen Davis and letting them go for nothing. Then you've got two gaps in your team that you then need to go and spend money to get a top quality player in. So what do you want? Do you want to front load it and then gamble on the fact that if things go to plan and that's basic recruitment, you'll make a big profit down the line, or do you want to just bring in young old players, keep all your old players on for a season just to kind of kick a can down the water and have to then do that anyway?
Scott,
to me, there's only one solution to that.
Yeah, as in its sell at peak value. I mean, the biggest point I said to you there is, see in Scottish football, Scott, you need to strike when the iron's hot, because you're only going to get a certain market. I mean, you look at Southampton. Southampton have they've kept scoring quite a lot, and you're going to get teams like West Brom and Brighton. They're the kind of market that you go down, and when they see a player from Scotland, they're going to come in and get him, and you need to be there to go, right, well, and it's like, obviously I want to keep the players, but he knows there's a certain time and a place where you go, right, I can go back to the Japanese market, or I can go across to Australia and get this guy that's worth, say, £6 million, but I can sell Jota for 25 and get this guy for 6 million. That's really good.
It's gambling, but it's gambling that's what a player trade model is. You have to buy players at small values and then sell them on for big values. That's development, that's progression. But also, you mentioned there about Postecoglou, and I do agree. He's went into a market he knows. He's going into Japan. I think he's going to sign his 5th Japanese player. Is that right? The boy from Vissel Kobe. But the next thing with that, I haven't heard Giovanni Van Bronckhorst going into his market. I'm not saying fill the squad with Dutch players. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, though, I don't look at Rangers transfer targets over the summer and the January. I don't think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst get in there and go in the summer and January and going, we really need to get Aaron Ramsey.
And don't forget, Scott, Gio Van Bronckhorst was also in Asia for a time in China. He clearly must see that league and go that there must be some peak value in here.
And he's got a lot of contacts as well. He's worked. Roy Mackay's came from Bayern Munich's development. That's maybe where Tillman came from. Dave Voss has been at Ajax. You tell me that market, that they aren't going right. There's a player I've seen that Utrecht or something for 20. They teams produce brilliant players. You're telling me that Rangers can't find a diamond in the mud in that Eredivisie, or it's not good, and it's not good. And I just think they're kicking a can down the road. But we'll move into the next game. Let's get into the action over the week. Dundee United 4, Kilmarnock 0. Dundee United move level in points with Kilmarnock and move off the bottom of the league in goal difference. An 8-goal swing at Tannadice last night.
Yep.
Reegan, there's 2 different ways to look at that game. Dundee United, very good. Kilmarnock, very, very bad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start off with them being so good. I thought they played very well on Saturday when I seen them. And I think Fox is starting to get a wee bit of a style going. But yeah, I thought they played very well last night. It was a great free kick they scored as well. But I think the biggest thing for him is he's got the big players firing again. Mm-hmm. Dylan Levitt is playing well. Stephen Fletcher's playing well. They finally got a settled number 1 in their goals.
Yeah.
Which is ideal. Obviously, it didn't do himself too much glory on Saturday against Celtic, but that's a different story. But I think now he's starting to get a settled team together, and they're playing away to Aberdeen on Saturday, and they'll just be hoping that they can do well again. But if you're Derek McInnes, Scott, I mean, you are ripping your hair out at half-time.
You are ripping your hair out at half-time. You're ripping your hair out before half-time. You need to make 3 changes. But you mentioned there about Dundee United. Dundee United, we've seen that this season. They hammered Aberdeen at Tannadice 4-0, but then they didn't kick on after that. So they are capable of putting in performances and results like that, but they need to build on it. That's how you get out the problem they're in.
Yep. I think the biggest thing for Dundee United is the fact that teams like Ross County, even Livingston, they're not pulling away from them.
Yeah.
So there's still only like 4 or 5 points between them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you look at Motherwell, right? Motherwell played some great football. We spoke about that earlier on the show. But Motherwell are only 1-1 away from being at the bottom of that table.
Yeah.
One defeat away.
Exactly. And it's that thing as well. In Kilmarnock, I mean, Derek McInnes will be wondering what on earth happened at half-time. And he made 3 changes just before half-time, and he said, I think he came out in his interview and said in the second half, you would have thought this game was even because Kilmarnock played well. Yeah, they did, but the first half, they were defensively, they were absolute shambles. And they just looked... I've always had a big thing with this Kilmarnock team this season is that they are lacking goals, especially with Kyle Lafferty being out. They couldn't they couldn't land a glove in Dundee United, and that just tells a story of a team with big problems.
Yeah, I think it does, Scott, because they're at the bottom of the table, Dundee United, and if you can't beat them, then it's not a great look. But I think, like you said there, the fact that they're missing their top striker for 10 games because of the stuff off the park, it's a big blow. But like you said, they've still got some deputies on the bench that could come in there and do well.
Yeah.
That might be the big thing for Derek in January, to go and get some more players in that squad.
Yeah, and it's that thing with Kilmarnock as well is that, yeah, they are struggling with like Lafferty being out, but they need better than what they've got. Christian Doidge, no disrespect to him, he's not the answer. If you need 10, 15 goals, I'm not going to chap Christian Doidge's door. No disrespect to him, but he's not the answer. And you did see a difference in them when they brought on the likes of Ennis Cameron come on. I still think, is he maybe is he that good enough to be at that level? I don't think so, but they were better in the second half. I think Derek can take slight positives from that, but the Kilmarnock really need to kick on. They've one game left. Derek McInnes will be wanting a massive upturn with this World Cup break. He'll be wanting a massive turnaround in fortunes after Christmas. Next game of Wednesday, St Mirren 2, St Johnstone 2. Very end to end at St Mirren.
Yeah,
really
that was
enjoyable game.
that was some game, Scott. It really was.
What do you think of both teams? Like St Mirren, VAR obviously played its part with a handball and red card, but St Mirren were obviously up. They came from 1-0 down. They were playing with a lot of confidence. They're a different team at home than they are away from home. They're making that a kind of a big occasion to play at that stadium. But St Johnstone as well, obviously they're in a high after winning on Sunday. They look a lot more in terms of like Stevie May, Nicky Clark, Ryan McGowan. They've got a settled squad now and they're using it.
Yeah, it's like you said, St John's look a bit more solid and they look a bit more settled with Nicky Clark up top. I think that combination between Stevie May and Nicky Clark working very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Scott, St Mirren they're very, very good at that St Mirren stadium, but when they go away from it,
Yeah, they struggle.
Yep. And I think that's why they'll probably struggle to get in the top six. Because if you look at a team like David Martindale's side, they can go home and away and pick up even draws.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be big for. But I think two teams that'll be really happy getting into this winter break that they're in the position they're in. One team that will not be happy with the run of form they're in is Hibs. A 2-0 defeat at home to Ross County. We'll start with Ross County. They weren't at their best. I've spoken about Ross County a lot. I think they're putting in good performances, but they aren't scoring goals. What a difference a week makes. 2 big victories, and they're now in a lot better position than they were this time last week.
Yeah, I think the manager will be very, very happy. I mean, they're playing well. Jordan White had a good chance just before they went 1-0 up. But yeah, I think they'll be very happy. I think I think Malcolm Mackay, like as much as there was a big thing about him being appointed, I think Roy McGregor stuck with him and he's done very well. I think the big thing for him was that Motherwell and Dundee United didn't pull away. They've not done that. And Ross County were looking at the bottom of the table, but now they can still looking up to go up that table, because if you look at it, if they can get even a draw at Celtic Park, that puts them on, what was it, 13 points? And
yeah,
they're looking to get to, I mean, that's getting you pretty high up the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're sitting a lot better than they were last week. They're sitting on 15 points from 15 games. Decent. Hibs, on the other hand, now, Hibs went on a 4-game winning streak, looked really good, looked as if they'd settled down a bit. They have a lot of the ball. You just look at the possession stats here. They have a lot of the ball, 65% possession, 21 shots, but they're not doing anything. They're no cutting edge in that Hibs team at the moment. And
no, probably their best chance was when Lewis Stevenson put a ball in and Mikkelsen tried to get through the front post, but
yeah,
probably they're just not offering much. Is it Yuan? I mean, Yuan looks as if he's got a good bit of pace, but he just doesn't look as if he's got the end product and the finish there to put them to put the ball in the pokey.
And it's not that thing. It's that thing as well. You can't, and I'm a big fan of Martin Boyle, but you can't be relying on Martin Boyle to be your only cutting edge. Now, I like the Ukrainian boy that's come in, but you can't put the buck on him. And it's the same with Boyle. Boyle's not there, but he's massive to that Hibs team now when you see how they're playing without him.
Yeah, and that just shows you that the fact that they brought him in deadline day. I mean, if they didn't bring him in, they'd be struggling. They'd be
absolutely. Final game: Livingston 2, Aberdeen 1. A fast start from Livingston, 2 early goals from Fitzwater and a penalty from Stephen Kelly. Aberdeen get back into it through Duke, and Aberdeen dominated the next. From the minute the second Livingston goal, Aberdeen dominated, but
yeah, I mean, they dominated the next 75 minutes. I watched the full 90 minutes of this game. I thought Livingston started well, but it was it's the same old tale again, Scott. They went straight to VAR, and like the the first Aberdeen penalty with the handball and from the corner, I just don't get it. He can't move his hand out of the way. I understand where they're coming from, that it touches him, but I just, if we're going to give penalties, like David Martindale says, if you're going to give penalties for that, you're going to be giving penalties every single game.
No, that's the thing. I saw a stat yesterday that I think there's something like that. I think there's been 63 Premiership games before VAR came in, and there was only 16 penalties. There's been
Yep.
16 games with VAR, and there's been 13 penalties. I mean, it shows you there's going to be a lot more penalties, but it's also this handball thing that, how do you, that the one with the St Johnstone one, St Mirren got a penalty, sorry. How can St Johnstone get the penalty? How can the St Mirren player, now he's out there with the back of his hand, it's in a non-natural position, but are you going to get a thing now where instead of having a shot at goal, you're going to get players just going, right, I'm going to just kick the ball off his hand, and hopefully he just puts his hand out?
Yeah, but I don't know I don't know what the player's meant to do, Scott. I mean,
Correct.
you go back to the Burnaby one at the
weekend.
The weekend, right?
Yeah.
I'd Postecoglou said he spoke to Burnaby in the dressing room, and Burnaby said he didn't actually see the ball coming.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, like, when are we going to sit and go, right, the arms are just part of the body. Like, I'll give you an example, Scott, right? Don't know if you remember, but Celtic played Real Madrid in the Bernabeu,
Mm-hmm.
and now Jens slipped, and when he was moving back up, he moved his hand up
Yeah.
to get himself back on his feet, but she then gave a penalty for it, and you're thinking, well, he basically just slipped and he just moved his hand up.
Nice.
He's no meaning to go to it, and I think the point that David Martindale makes about you're going to get a lot of penalties is very valid, because
It's absolutely valid.
we're going to get to a stage where we're going to get 4 penalties a game, because it's actually quite annoying that because, like, I don't know how you feel, Scott, but I find it very hard to celebrate goals now, because you just
I've been like that for years. I make a wee joke to people I know that I don't celebrate getting a coupon up until I know the full time whistle's went, because you can't celebrate goals anymore, because you're just waiting on, why has this been disallowed? It was the same last night. I was at another game, and I was obviously getting notifications through about the Celtic game, the Rangers game, and things like that. And Celtic went 2-0 up, and I thought, right, okay, that's probably the Celtic game kind of wrapped up. But then 2 minutes later, I got a message through to say that the Celtic goal had been disallowed. So you're getting these notifications to say that Celtic have scored, and then you're getting a 2 minutes later to say that it's been disallowed. And I know that happens, but that happened at least 5 or 6 times last night for Scottish games, and it's crazy. And it's just, as you say, it's taking out that thing of you're not watching the game the same way. Now, I've been a big advocate of VAR. I think something is needed to help the referees out, but it needs to be everything needs to be properly linked. You can't, the handball rule is stupid. It is, there's no other word for it. It is stupid.
Scott, and if we got a referee on this programme today, they would tell you they're just following the rules. But
They wouldn't know, because the referees wouldn't talk. That's the problem. The referees aren't allowed to talk or explain any decisions.
Yeah, and I just find it absolutely madness, Scott, that we're in this territory where we've got this technology, but see the way that the referees are doing it, they're acting as if they've got it for a Christmas present. They're just using it at every opportunity.
Aye, I mean, some will need to properly assess, and that's why I think the winter break needs to be maybe not a learning course for VR, because I think the referees will be fed up with going through training courses for it. But you also need it's like any other, we spoke about it earlier, it's like any other job. You need a progress report, how this is going. Could this be better? Because everything can be better. Over the winter break, you've got a month to properly get rid of these teething problems, and instead of coming out and saying our referees are going to be rubbish for 3 months, why don't you sit during this winter break, which is a tool you've got, to properly get it in order for coming back after the World Cup?
Scott, the biggest one for me, right, was, and it was actually quite funny when I'm thinking about it, but it's not funny at the time. Right, it was when Dundee United, right? They get Tony Watt gets sent off, so it gets referred to VR. VR says yes, it's a red card, and then they go to the Tuesday morning. They go, oh, that wasn't a red card after all. How
Correct.
can they go? How can they go to VR and say yes, it's a because the referee's got the equipment there that they've paid millions to use, and still can't get it right. So where are we going as a society if the referees have got these pictures in this Clydesdale studio? They should have everything there to their disposal so that see on the Tuesday morning, so they don't need to go and say, right, I've made a mistake.
We're going to wrap up the show there. It is an absolute pleasure to be joined by Reegan Stevenson. Reegan, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, Scott. Thank you for having me on. It's been great to be on, and I appreciate you asking me.
Pleasure. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media for consistent Scottish football coverage and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you soon. Cheers.